Commander Park Jin pressed his palm against the cold viewport of the exploration vessel Endurance. The purple and gold swirls of the Andromeda Nebula twisted slowly beyond the reinforced glass. For 3 months, his crew had been mapping this dangerous region of space, dodging radiation storms and cosmic debris. Today, all that risk had finally paid off. The ancient alien archive floating in their cargo bay was the discovery of a lifetime. The crystalline structure pulsed with stored data from a civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. Inside, its memory banks were star charts showing the locations of dozens of lost colony worlds, planets that could support human life scattered across the galaxy. Jin smiled as he imagined the celebrations. Back on Earth, the Galactic Council would finally see that humanity deserved respect among the stars. These new worlds could house billions of people, ending the overcrowding problems that plagued Earth's cities. Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Kim Hanna called from her station near the back of the bridge. Her voice carried excitement. Everyone knew what this meant. Jin straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. Put it through, Lieutenant. The main holographic display flickered to life. Jin expected to see the friendly face of Ambassador Chen, the human representative to the Council. Instead, Chancellor Vextar's reptilian features filled the screen. The Zephyrian's yellow eyes were cold, and his forked tongue darted between his lips as he spoke. Commander Park Jin of the vessel Endurance. Vextar's voice was formal and harsh. Your mission is terminated, effective immediately. You will return to Earth at once. Upon arrival, your crew will surrender to Council security forces for questioning. Jin felt the blood drain from his face. Round the bridge, his crew members exchanged worried glances. This was not the response they had expected. Chancellor, with respect, we've made an incredible discovery, Jin said carefully. The archive we found contains information that could benefit all species in the galaxy. The Council is aware of your findings, Vextar replied, his tone suggesting the discovery was somehow shameful. Your orders are clear, Commander. Comply immediately. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Ensign Li Tae, barely 22 years old, and on his first deep space mission, spoke first. Sir, they're not explaining why, he whispered, his young face pale with confusion. What did we do wrong? Jin had no answer. In 12 years of service, he had never seen the Council react this way to a major discovery. Something was terribly wrong, but he couldn't understand what. What Jin didn't know was that 3 weeks ago, Chancellor Vextar had received a visit from Supreme Commander Krath of the Hegemony Empire. The meeting had taken place in secret, far from the public halls of the Council chambers. The Hegemony had been expanding aggressively across the Outer Rim territories for months. Their massive war fleets were conquering system after system, and the Council was powerless to stop them. Krath had made his demands simple. Give us what we want, or we will take it by force. The price for peace was humanity's outer colonies. 7 human settlements on the edge of space would be abandoned, their populations left to fend for themselves. In exchange, the Hegemony would leave the core worlds alone. But there was another condition. Earth's exploration fleets, like the Endurance, were too unpredictable. Humans had a disturbing habit of fighting back when other species would surrender. Council agreed to brand them as rogue elements threatening galactic stability. Back on the Endurance, communications officer Yoon Soo looked up from her console with worry in her eyes. Commander, I'm picking up multiple hyperspace signatures. Ships are jumping into the system. Jin moved to the tactical display. Red dots appeared on the screen, surrounding their position. Many 6 vessels, sir. They're not broadcasting. Council identification codes. Chief Engineer Park Du studied the sensor readings. Those are bounty hunter ships, Commander. Modified cargo vessels with military-grade weapons. The truth hit Jin like a physical blow. The Council hadn't just terminated their mission. It had marked the Endurance and her crew for capture, or worse. All hands, battle stations, Jin ordered, his voice steady despite the fear building in his chest. Engineering, give me everything the engines have got. The Endurance was an exploration vessel, not a warship. Shields were designed to protect against radiation and debris, not military weapons. Her single defensive turret was meant to clear asteroids from their path, not fight multiple attackers. As the bounty hunters closed in, Jin realized the horrible truth. The galaxy had abandoned them. The same council that had sent them on this mission now wanted them eliminated. Every human colony, every Earth ship operating in deep space, was now completely alone. The first enemy weapons fire lit up the darkness around them. The Endurance shuddered under the impact, and emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. Jin gripped his command chair and made a decision that would change everything. "Plot a course for the Outer Rim," he ordered. "If the galaxy wants to hunt, us will disappear where they can't follow." The hunt had begun. 3 weeks of constant running had pushed the Endurance crew to their breaking point. They had jumped from system to system, always staying one step ahead of the bounty hunters, tracking them. Their food supplies were running low, and several crew members were showing signs of stress fatigue. Commander Park Jin sat in his quarters, staring at the star charts displayed on his wall screen.
Oh.
Red zones marked areas where Council forces were actively hunting them. Yellow zones showed systems where bounty hunters operated freely. The safe areas were getting smaller every day. Lieutenant Kim Hanna knocked on his door. "Commander, we've received a transmission. It's encrypted with old Earth's military codes from the colonial wars." Jin followed her to the communications station. The message was short but clear. "Lost sheep seeking shelter. Follow beacon frequency 7734.2 to safety. Tell no one else." "No, sir. This could be a trap," warned Chief Engineer Park Du. "The Council might be using our own codes against us." Jin studied the message again. The encryption was perfect using codes that had been classified for over a decade. Only someone with deep knowledge of Earth's military history could have sent it. "We don't have many choices left," Jin decided. "Set course for the beacon signal." The coordinates led them to an unremarkable asteroid field in the Kepler system. From the outside, it looked like any other collection of space rocks drifting through the void. But as they approached, Jin noticed something strange. "Commander, I'm reading artificial structures inside the largest asteroid," reported Ensign Lee Tae from the sensor station. "There's a hidden docking bay." A new voice crackled over their communications. "Unknown vessel, transmit your identification and state your business." "This is Commander Park Jin of the Earth vessel Endurance. We're following instructions from an encrypted message." There was a long pause. Then the voice returned, warmer this time. "Welcome home, Endurance. Follow the guidance beacons to Docking Bay 3. The asteroid's surface split open like a flower, revealing a sophisticated base carved into the rock. Dozens of ships were docked inside, most of them modified cargo vessels and small fighters. Jin recognized the design patterns as human-built, but many had been heavily modified with non-standard equipment. As the Endurance settled into the docking bay, Jin prepared to meet whoever was running this operation. He expected to find refugees, or maybe criminals hiding from the law. Instead, a woman in a crisp military uniform waited for them at the airlock. Captain Choi Min looked to be in her 50s. With graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, her face was weathered by years of hard living, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Jin recognized her name from the military records, though she was supposed to be dead. "Welcome to the real galaxy, Commander," she said grimly as they shook hands. "One where humans look out for each other because nobody else will." Min led Jin and his senior officers through corridors carved from solid rock. The base was larger than it appeared from outside, with multiple levels extending deep into the asteroid. They passed workshops where technicians repaired damaged ships, storage areas filled with supplies, and living quarters housing dozens of people. "I thought you died during the Proxima incident 5 years ago," Jin said as they walked. Min smiled bitterly. The Council was happy to let everyone believe that. "It made things easier when I started operating outside their rules." She brought them to a command center filled with holographic displays, showing star charts and ship movements across the galaxy. Jin was impressed by the sophistication of the setup. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was a fully operational military base. For years I've been watching the Council abandon human colonies when it became politically convenient, Min explained. They cut supply lines, ignored distress calls, and left our people to die. So I built this network to do what? They wouldn't. Her intelligence was devastating. Min's network of smugglers and outcasts had been secretly operating across the galaxy. Rescuing abandoned colonies and maintaining supply lines the Council had deliberately severed. They had saved thousands of lives that the Council had written off as acceptable losses. The situation has gotten much worse recently, Min continued, activating a tactical display. 3 major human settlements are currently under active siege by hegemony forces. Their distress calls are being deliberately ignored by the Council. Display showed 3 systems marked in red. New Sol Colony, Haven Station, and Busan Prime, Min listed. 60,000 civilians total, including families and children. The Council has classified them as acceptable losses in their peace negotiations with the hegemony. Jin felt sick. These weren't military targets or strategic positions. They were farming communities and research stations, places where ordinary people had gone to build new lives among the stars. Navigation Officer Yoon-soo stepped forward. Her hands clenched into fists. We can't just leave them to die. The Council already has, Min replied. They made a deal with the hegemony. Human. Outer colonies are the price for peace. Jin studied the tactical displays, his mind racing through possibilities. The distances were enormous, and the enemy forces were overwhelming. Any rescue attempt would be suicide. No, Jin said finally, his voice firm with determination. We can't abandon them. Min smiled for the first time since they had met. Hoping you would say that, Commander, because I have a plan. The human fleet looked pitiful against the vast darkness of space. 12 ships in total, most of them converted cargo vessels and mining ships hastily fitted with weapons. Captain Choi Min had gathered every available vessel from her network. But compared to the hegemony's war machine, they might as well have been throwing rocks at a mountain. Commander Park Jin stood on the bridge of the Endurance. Studying the tactical display one last time, the plan was simple and desperate. They would split into 3 groups, each targeting one of the besieged colonies. 4 ships each, against fleets that numbered in the hundreds. This is either the bravest thing we've ever done, or the stupidest, muttered Lieutenant Kim Hannah. As she checked her weapon systems, probably both, Jin replied, trying to keep his voice steady. But those are our people down there. The 3 groups separated at the edge of the Kepler system. Osh. Jin watched as Captain Min's ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading for New Sol Colony. Another group, led by Captain Li Wu, jumped toward Haven Station. That left Jin with 4 ships to face the siege of Busan Prime. The journey to Busan Prime took 18 hours. During that time, Jin tried not to think about what they were flying into. The intelligence reports were clear. The hegemony had positioned 37 warships in orbit around the planet, had been bombarding the surface for 6 days, turning the colony's cities into molten glass. 15,000 colonists were trapped in underground mining tunnels. Their emergency supplies running out? The hegemony was waiting for them to surrender. But the colonists knew that surrender meant slavery or death. When Jin's small fleet dropped out of hyperspace, the sight before them was worse than he had imagined. Busan Prime's surface glowed. With the heat of continuous bombardment, the planet's once green continents were now scarred with craters and fires that could be seen from space. Sir, enemy fleet is moving to intercept, reported Ensign Li Tae. 37 ships, all military class. They're demanding our surrender. Jin opened a channel to his other 3 ships. All vessels, this is Jin. Remember, we're not here to win a fleet battle. We're here to save lives. Stay focused on the mission. The hegemony commander probably expected the humans to turn and run when faced with such overwhelming odds. Instead, Jin ordered his ships to dive straight toward the planet, using the gravity well to increase their speed. Sir, this is insane, Chief Engineer Park Doom muttered as explosions rocked their ship. We can't fight their entire fleet. Plasma bolts from hegemony weapons lit up space around them. The Endurance shuddered under multiple hits, her shields flickering dangerously. Two of Jin's escort ships were already trailing atmosphere from hull breaches. But Jin had learned something important during his weeks with Captain Min's network. The hegemony didn't understand humans, expected other species to calculate odds, to retreat when faced with certain death, to accept losses as inevitable. Communications, get me a direct line to the colony, Jin ordered. The underground shelters had maintained a weak communication array, hidden from hegemony sensors. Mayor Song-Ara's voice crackled through the static, exhausted but determined. Commander Jin, thank God. We thought we were forgotten. Earth never abandons its own, Jin replied. I need you to do something crazy.
How can your mining teams
access the heavy equipment? Some of it survived the bombardment. What do you need? Return your mining lasers into anti-aircraft weapons. When I give the signal, target any hegemony fighter that comes within range. The hegemony had made a critical error. They assumed the planet was defenseless, so they had moved their fighters in close to provide precision bombardment.
Ow.
They never expected the colonists to fight back. At Jin's signal, mining lasers erupted from hidden positions across the planet's surface. The industrial-grade cutting beams, designed to slice through solid rock, tore through fighter armor like paper. 12 hegemony fighters were destroyed in the first volley. Jin's ships used the confusion to their advantage. They swooped down to salvage wreckage from destroyed enemy fighters. Using their cargo bays to collect intact weapons and shield generators, Chief Engineer Park Do and his team worked frantically to install the salvaged equipment on their own ships. Sir, we're actually getting stronger, Park Do reported with amazement. These hegemony power cores are twice as efficient as ours. The battle continued for hours. The hegemony threw more ships into the fight, expecting to overwhelm the humans. Through sheer numbers, but every destroyed enemy ship became spare parts for the human fleet. Every tactical mistake became a lesson learned. The hegemony commander grew increasingly frustrated. His species fought according to ancient traditions of honor and calculated risk. When losses reached an acceptable threshold, civilized species withdrew to fight another day. Humans, he was learning, had no such limitations. Jin coordinated with Mayor Song to turn the colony's infrastructure into a weapon. Transportation tunnels became supply routes for ammunition. Processing plants began manufacturing crude missiles from mining explosives. The entire population worked together with single-minded determination. As the battle raged through its second day, something extraordinary happened. Jin's small fleet began systematically dismantling the siege forces. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting with salvaged parts and desperate ingenuity. Other species might calculate acceptable losses and withdraw. Humans simply refused to accept that their people were expendable. The hegemony was about to learn why the galaxy feared humanity's stubborn refusal to quit. The endurance was dying. Commander Park Jin gripped his command chair as another plasma barrage tore through their failing shields. Around Busan Prime, the small human fleet had fought for 3 days straight, but they were finally being overwhelmed. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Chief Engineer Park Do, his voice strained. We've lost main power to the weapons array. Only 2 of Jin's original 4 ships were still fighting. The mining vessel Prosperity had been destroyed 6 hours ago, taking 12 brave souls with her. The cargo hauler Soulwind was drifting powerless, her crew evacuated to the remaining ships. Sir, the hegemony is moving their heavy cruisers into bombardment position, warned Ensign Li Tae. They're going to finish the planet. Jin watched the tactical display with growing despair. The enemy had finally decided to stop playing games. 8 massive hegemony warships were positioning themselves for a final assault that would turn Busan Prime's surface into molten rock. All ships maintained defensive formation, Jin ordered, though he knew it was hopeless. They had saved thousands of colonists, but 15,000 more remained trapped in the underground shelters. Lieutenant Kim Hannah looked up from her station. Commander, we did everything we could. Before Jin could respond, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open like fabric, revealing a swirling vortex of blue and white energy. The hyperspace portal was enormous, larger than anything Jin had ever seen. Sir, massive hyperspace signature detected, Lite reported, his voice filled with wonder. Multiple ships incoming. The first vessel to emerge was a monster. The dreadnought Indomitable was 3 kilometers long, her hull bristling with weapons that could level entire cities. She was followed by a fleet that seemed to go on forever. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. All of them bore the blue and white colors of the Earth's defense force. Jin had never seen so many Earth ships in one place. It wasn't just a rescue fleet. It was the entire might of humanity's military, deployed in force for the first time in decades. "This is Admiral Kung Yoon of the Earth Defense Force," came a broadcast on all frequencies. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "All hegemony forces have exactly 10 minutes to withdraw from human space before we demonstrate why Earth never leaves its own behind." The hegemony fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming moments before, suddenly looked small and vulnerable. The Earth ships moved with practiced precision, forming battle lines that spoke of years of training and preparation. Hegemony. Commander Vactor responded with typical arrogance. "Human fleet, you are outnumbered and outgunned.
Outgunned, withdraw immediately.
Or face destruction." Jin almost laughed. The hegemony commander was looking at the same tactical display everyone else could see. The Earth fleet outnumbered the hegemony forces 3-1, with superior firepower and technology. "Your 10 minutes are up," Admiral Kong replied simply. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. The Earth fleet didn't just engage the enemy. They systematically dismantled every hegemony position in the system. Their weapons fired with precision that spoke of advanced targeting systems, while their ships moved in formations that maximized firepower while minimizing losses. The Indomitable engaged the hegemony flagship directly, her main guns each, the size of a city block, fired in sequence. The enemy ship's shields collapsed under the first volley, and the second volley cracked her hull like an egg. "Hegemony fleet is attempting to retreat," reported one of the Earth destroyers. "Should we pursue?" Negative Admiral Kang responded. "Let them run. They need to carry word back to their empire about what happens when you threaten human colonies." Then, an hour, the entire hegemony siege force had been destroyed or driven off. The Earth fleet then turned their attention to humanitarian efforts. Deploying medical ships and supply vessels to help the colonists on Busan Prime, Jin watched in amazement. As Admiral Kong's flagship moved alongside the Endurance, the woman who appeared on his communications screen was in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much war. "Commander Park Jin," she said with a slight smile. "Your defense of these colonies has been noted." "Well done, Admiral." "How did you know to come here?" Jin asked. "Earth has been monitoring the situation for months," Kong replied. "We knew the Galactic Council had made their deal with the hegemony. We've been preparing for this day." As Admiral Kang spoke, her message was being broadcast across all frequencies, reaching every corner of the galaxy. "The Galactic Council may have written you off, but Earth never abandons its children. Anyone who threatens human colonies will face the full might of Terra." The message was clear to every species listening. Humanity was done playing by the Council's rules. They would protect their own people, with or without galactic approval. Jin realized that this moment would change everything. The age of human colonies begging for protection was over. Earth had shown its true strength, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Commander Admiral Kong continued. "You and your crew have earned a place in the new order we're building. Welcome to the real Earth Defense Force. Humanity would stand alone if necessary, but they would stand strong." 6 months had passed since the Battle of Busan Prime, and the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Park Jin stood in the command center of Harmony Station, watching the steady stream of ships moving through the system. The massive space station had been built from salvaged hegemony materials, and now served as the headquarters of the Terran Colonial Alliance. Jin still found it hard to believe his new rank. From the commander of a single exploration ship to the admiral of humanity's new independent fleet. The stars displayed on his collar felt heavy with responsibility, but he wore them with pride. Sir, we're receiving applications from the Centauri settlements, reported Captain Kim Hanna, who now served as his chief of staff. She had been promoted after her outstanding service during the rescue operations. They want to join the Alliance. Jin nodded as he reviewed the data on his personal tablet. The Centauri system had been one of the first non-human colonies to witness humanity's fierce loyalty to their people. When the hegemony had threatened their mining operations 2 months ago, a single Earth destroyer had driven off an entire enemy squadron. What's their current status with the Galactic Council? Jin asked. They officially withdrew last week, Hanna replied. Same as the Altarian Federation and the Vegan Trade Union. They're all seeking direct relationships with us now. The changes had started almost immediately after the rescue operations, as other species had watched in amazement as humanity refused to abandon their colonies, even when facing impossible odds. The sight of Earth's military arriving to save their people had inspired something the galaxy hadn't seen in generations: hope. The Altarian Federation had been the first major power to break with the Council. Their ambassador had publicly stated that watching humanity's courage had shown them what real leadership looked like. Within weeks, other species began questioning why they accepted the Council's failures as normal. Have we heard anything from the Council recently? Jin asked as they walked through the station's corridors. Chancellor Vextar sent another message, demanding we return to Council authority, Hanna said with a slight smile. Admiral Kong's response was ... direct. Jin could imagine. Admiral Kang Yoon had become Earth's primary spokesperson to the galaxy, and her messages were always clear and to the point. Humanity was done asking permission to protect their own people. They entered the main observation deck. Her floor-tootling windows showed the bustling activity around Harmony Station. Human ships moved in organized patrols, no longer bound by Council restrictions on where they could travel or what weapons they could carry. Look at that, Jin said, pointing to a convoy of cargo ships approaching the station. 6 months ago, those captains were smugglers hiding from Council forces. Now, they're running legitimate trade routes between human colonies. The transformation had been remarkable. Captain Choi Min's underground network had become the foundation of a new economic system. The same people who had once risked their lives smuggling supplies to abandoned colonies were now operating openly. With full military protection, a young officer approached them with a datapad. Admiral, we've received confirmation from the Outer Rim colonies. Food production is up 40%, and mineral extraction has doubled since we established the protection patrols. Any problems with pirates or raiders? Jin asked. None, sir. Word has spread that attacking human colonies means facing our entire fleet. Most criminal organizations are giving our systems a wide berth. Jin smiled at that. The galaxy's criminal element had quickly learned that humanity took a very dim view of anyone who threatened their people. Several pirate fleets had been completely destroyed when they made the mistake of attacking human shipping. Sir, incoming priority message from Earth, announced the communications officer. The holographic display showed Admiral Kang Yoon in her office on the orbital command station above. Earth, behind her, Jin could see the blue curve of humanity's homeworld. Admiral Jin, I have news from the diplomatic front, Kang began. 3 more species have formally requested alliance agreements with Earth. The Council is starting to panic as their membership drops. What about the hegemony? Jin asked. They've been quiet since Busan Prime. Our intelligence suggests they're reconsidering their expansion plans. Apparently, the idea of facing the full Earth's defense force has cooled their enthusiasm for conquest. After the call ended, Jin and Hanna walked to the station's memorial wall. Hundreds of names were etched into the black granite, representing all the humans who had died because the Council had abandoned them over the years. At the top, in letters of gold, was the founding principle of the Terran Colonial Alliance. Earth never leaves its own. You know what I find most satisfying? Hanna said as they stood before the memorial.
What's that?
The Council spent decades treating us like junior partners, telling us we were too aggressive and unpredictable. Half the galaxy wants to join us because we're the only ones who actually protect our people. Jin looked out at the stars, where human ships patrolled routes that had once been controlled by an organization that cared more about politics than lives. The Galactic Council could keep their rules and regulations. Humanity had chosen a different path. The galaxy had learned that humans might walk among the stars without official blessing. But they would never let their people face the darkness alone.